what it is. All right. So today on the watch list was E.T. I'm just gonna pull up some stuff here so it'll remind me. It is certainly one of my favorite films from Steven Spielberg. It has all of his just incredibleness. I feel, really marked a lot of his stylistic tones. Changed the way that he made movies to a certain degree. And it's just straight up good. All right. I'm pulling something up here. I want to make sure that I'm... Sorry, guys. All right. Okay. Cool. Looks like we're good to go. I think. Sorry. I was just working and I had to run down here and just start this. All right. So we got that gold taco and Carly. Okay, so E.T. One of my favorite things about this film is, of course, just the heart that it has with Elliot and his connection with E.T. He really, it's like a coming of age story for him. So that gold taco, I've seen some parts of E.T., but years ago, and I barely remember it. That's why you need to watch it, because it's really quite remarkable too. Because there's a version of E.T. that is a low budget film. Of course, this was Spielberg. This was not his first film. He had already done Jaws. He had already done Close Encounters of the Third Kind by the point when he got to E.T. But there is a version of this that's low budget. It's a very simple story. Of course, there's the alien that you see frequently. In the special edition of it, there's a CG version of it. But keeping in mind that when it was made, it was not a CG alien. It was a puppet, and possibly a guy in a suit. But I think it was always a puppet. I could very well be wrong on that. But it's at its heart, it's about a boy finding a friend, essentially. And as he finds a friend that builds him up, he develops a better relationship with his brother, who he does not have a good relationship at the beginning, because like any big brother, he doesn't want to be around his younger brother. But by the end, not only does he gain the favor of his big brother, but also his big brother's friends, who are also not really that kind to Elliot at the beginning. One of the things that I also enjoy about this film is that in the opening scene, I love how they never show the faces of any adults until like 2/3 or 3/4 through the movie. All we get from the adults is that we know they're chasing E.T., they're looking for him. We know that one of them has a key ring on his belt, and it's always that jingle, jingle, jingle sound that announces his presence and announces that character. And it's really great because that means the whole film is being told from the perspective of the child. We know basically as much as he knows about these characters. Of course, we know a little bit more since we know that basically we know what E.T. and Elliot know. That's probably the best way to put it, since E.T. and Elliot kind of have a molded kind of psyche and mind throughout the film. And so I really like that because nowadays I feel like you would always be with the characters. You would hear the adults, the scientists, you'd hear them talking about looking for the alien and stuff like that. But Spielberg completely throws all that out the window. He is about Elliot and E.T., and that is it. So one of the things that I noticed while watching this movie, and Sadeko Taka, you've not seen it, but Carly, maybe you have. Maybe you won't break my heart. But I don't know if you know, but E.T., the aliens, are canon in Star Wars. Yes, I said that. E.T. aliens, that species, is canon in Star Wars. During the vote of no confidence in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as they're all saying, vote now, vote now, in one of the corners you can see 3 ET aliens doing their thing. And so it's a fun Easter egg, but I wanted to talk about today, can that be expounded upon? Can you have more than just that in Star Wars? Or in E.T., I guess. Because throughout the film, now this movie, The Phantom Menace, excuse me, the species name is Spielberg spelled backwards. I didn't know that. So what is that? Greg Bleeps? Type it out so we can all see it. And so E.T. was made shortly after Star Wars had come out, and there's a lot of Star Wars shout-outs basically in the entire film. Elliot introduces them to his Star Wars toys like Lando and Greedo and Hammerhead, and Walrus Face, and all these characters from the Cantina and Lando. There's a moment where E.T. when on Halloween he sees Yoda, and he follows the kid that's dressed up like Yoda, like he knows him or something like that. And okay, so they're Greg Bleeps. Okay, so E.T. is a Greg Bleep. So I started thinking, would it be fun, or would it just be straight sacrilege if E.T. was actually a Jedi or something like that? Because we know that he can control things with his mind. We know that he can heal. There's a part in E.T. where E.T. points the guy in a Yoda costume and says home. Exactly. And so it's like, it wouldn't be far off if somehow E.T. was part of the Star Wars universe. Maybe he's from the unknown regions. Now, I have always been a ardent and adamant person against doing like a Marvel Star Wars crossover, because I think it would just kind of ruin everything that is sacred in this world. And so in reality, I'd probably be against doing an E.T. Star Wars thing. But I just couldn't help, but my mind just started racing. Okay, if E.T. knows what the Yoda species is at the very least, that says a lot. He can control things with his mind. He can force heal. He can do all these things that a Jedi can kind of do. Of course, he can space travel and all this stuff. But I just would love to know if they made a E.T. Jedi, would you want to see it? I mean, maybe it's not doing a E.T. Star Wars crossover. Maybe it's just having an E.T. Jedi in one of these films, in a Star Wars movie. Now, of course, that adds a lot of problems, because then that implies that our Earth can somehow be involved in the Star Wars universe, and well, that opens up a whole other can of worms. Okay, so that Gold Taco, the sole viewer. So this is basically a conversation now. I was watching Parks and Rec today, and this was before The Force Awakens, and one minor character started talking about how The Force Awakens should have a stone that crosses universe with a Star Wars universe, and this can relate to how E.T. makes it to our universe. So how The Force Awakens should have a stone that crosses universes. A stone. Like, what do you mean a stone? And this can relate to how E.T. makes it to our universe. Elaborate on the stone, because I'm not sure if I understand. But, E.T. could be almost like a Yoda type character, the judge me by my size to you type of character, where he's small, but he's fierce. And man, I'd love to see E.T. with a lightsaber. I think it'd be kind of fun. But that brings to another question, if E.T. were somehow part of the Star Wars universe, because like we said, they are canon, they are an Easter egg in Episode 1, but could it be expounded upon more? I mean, would that be cool? The some stone like the Infinity Stones, they can cross over with the Marvel Universe and other universes. Okay. Oh boy, I just don't know, because like if you were to introduce Jedi with like Thanos or Captain Marvel, I don't know. I don't know if that would. I just don't know if that would work for me. I feel like it would be jumping the shark massively. It would be a. I mean, I even think having an ET Jedi would be. It would just be saying we're out of ideas and we need to do this now. We need to do a Marvel Star Wars crossover. But anyway, so one of the other that Gold Taco with Star Wars, you gotta. Star Wars is awesome, or Star Wars ET. Yeah, I think it would mess up the story. It would be out of control, mess up the story. All right, so ET. Here's another thing about ET. That the camera work is stupendous. He has a lot of one-shots, because that's Spielberg. He does the Spielbergian push-in like crazy in the film. And he's always doing things off-camera. So E.T., one of the humorous things about E.T. is he's very unpredictable. He's like a child himself. And like, for instance, in one moment, Elliot, the boy, is bringing E.T. into his bedroom. We know that E.T.'s coming through the door. The camera pans over with Elliot to get something and follows Elliot. And then it pans back with Elliot when he walks back to the door and E.T.'s gone. And then E.T. pops up from behind the table. It's just such a simple camera move, but Spielberg's so good at it and it's so natural. I was really impressed as I was rewatching it. And I haven't seen... The last time I saw E.T. was when I was at USC, so this was... and that was in 2014 I saw it. So it's been 6 years since I've seen any portion of this film. I thought it was really effective to do that shot like that because it was in one shot, so we knew there was no reorienting ourselves with the geography after a cut. And so we knew E.T. was in the doorway, and so when the camera panned back, we knew exactly where E.T. was supposed to be. And when he was not there, we immediately checked that in our brains, saying, okay, what is he doing? What he's missing? Where did he go? And it was just a very effective camera work. All right. The other thing that I really enjoyed in this film is that Spielberg always makes it hard on his characters. There's always that extra thing to make it interesting. So in this film, and it's kind of become the stereotypical thing now, but it may have been new at the time, but it was the older brother is learning how to drive. And we know he's pretty bad, which means, of course, he has to lead the big car chase at the end of the film, right? He has to actually drive the van that is holding E.T. and Elliot as they're trying to get E.T. to go home. Because it's, you could do it in two different ways. Either the brother can be an amazing driver, or he can be a horrible driver. Now, in this story, they could have made the brother like a go-kart driver or something like that. But it's always more interesting if they're bad at it, because you know there's going to be accidents, there's going to be mistakes being made, and so unless the movie's about, unless it's Baby Driver, it's wise to make them bad at something. All right, so I'm learning how to drive too. Coincidence? I think not. I think not. I think not. So, what's up, Carly? Welcome back. Welcome back. Carly, have you seen E.T.? Definitely want to know. Definitely want to know. And what would you think if they had an E.T. Jedi in a Star Wars movie? Would you be into that, or would you feel that it would if it would just open up a whole can of worms and it would be way too much and destroy everything that's holy in the world? All right. So all right. I'm just watching the comments appear from Carly. All right, the Parks and Rec episode that I called you about before my class today. Okay. Um, while I'm waiting for comments, one of the other things that I really enjoyed in ET was that. Okay, let's see here. I don't think it would be great, says Carly. Yeah, I think it'd be too much. Um, yeah, but all the little Easter eggs make me wonder if ET knew Yoda and all that stuff. Um, but of course, it's just probably comes down to Steven was a big supporter of Star Wars, and he and George were best friends at the time. So of course, he's gonna do references to his film. Um, all right, so with E.T., one of the other things that I loved about the film, I love the opening scene. I already mentioned the reasons that you don't see the faces of any of the adults until like 3/4 or 2/3 into the film, with the exception of the mother. We don't even see the teacher's face, but I loved the way Spielberg always heightens his cinematography with his the light beams. He's the king of the light beams, with those high-powered flashlights. I'm sure if you've ever tried to do kind of like a scene with make a flashlight, make light beams, you've realized that it's got to be pretty bright. So that's just a little filmmaking tip. If you want those light beams from a flashlight, go with the big superpower LED lights or something like that. Because the brighter it is, the more light beams you get, and you got to throw some atmosphere into the air. So that could be a simple fog machine. So oftentimes we'll just use fog machines. They do make, and that's water based. They do make smokers, which smokers actually use oil and actually burn a little bit, and that kind of hangs in the air a little bit more. But fog machines are a lot cheaper for low budget filmmaking, and they produce a fairly similar effect. I love the way that Spielberg always uses it to his advantage. A lot of people say that he's too cinematic, but for me, it's a friggin' movie. It's not real life. I want to see something that I don't see every day, and so I really appreciate that, and he's really been doing that since since the beginning. Mythic Bricks, General Kenobi, what it is. So Mythic, we're just talking a little bit about E.T. and also if E.T. could be a Jedi in a Star Wars film one day, because you probably know that the E.T. characters or aliens are canon. They're spotted in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. E.T. clearly knows something about the Yoda species in E.T. He can levitate things. He can force heal, all that stuff. So we were just kind of riffing on whether or not it'd be fun to see an E.T. Jedi one day. But we've all kind of agreed so far that it would open up a can of worms. It would probably just be too much, and it would just probably ruin some stuff. I don't think it'd be taking it as far as doing a Star Wars Marvel crossover, because that would ruin me and destroy my life. So Carly's talking about that the film is very well directed, E.T., and it was a great layout, and it always hooks the watcher's attention. Definitely. Spielberg is truly a master at directing the eye, visually. And he does that, when you really watch his films, he does that with his blocking. He'll have characters move, which influences the way the camera moves. So for instance, when a camera walks past when a person walks past the camera, that will sometimes kind of drag the camera along with it, and that character will keep going while the camera may keep going in one direction, and then another character may walk in front of the camera again to pull the camera another direction. And so the Spielberg is great at that. He's always drawing the attention really well. So one of the things I love to do is just, you can basically watch any Spielberg film and just see him do this. And he really got good at it. I mean, he really was good with the Wonders and Jaws. But I feel like even with Close Encounters, he really started to come into it. E.T., he just keeps getting better and better and better. But E.T., So Gold Taco says, did E.T. learn how to levitate in the 7th grade? I think that's canon. Yeah, I think that's what Elliot was learning in his 7th grade science class when he let all the frogs go. All right. Myth the Brick says, my analysis, I imagine E.T. similar to the Talls. He's a primitive yet intelligent species, I'm assuming. It is to be assumed that Earth is indeed part of the Star Wars galaxy. Yeah, which makes it intense. I don't know if you guys have read, there is a old Legends comic where basically it says that Chewie is Bigfoot. That I think it's been so long since I've read it, so I might be remembering it wrong. But it's like an alternative universe Legends. So it's like even in Legends it wasn't canon, but it was like Han and Chewie crash land on Earth, and I think Han dies or something like that, and Chewie wanders like the Earth, and it like he is actually Bigfoot and stuff like that. All right, so Tyler Joseph and the Dema universe is apparently canon now. Mythic Break says, with proper training with Masters Yoda and Nduli, E.T. could channel his power into a deeply spiritual connection to the Force. His lightsaber is for sure green. Yeah, Chewie's Bigfoot in Legends. Yeah, and Han dies in the crash. That's right. So, I can't remember what the circumstances were, but if I remember right, it was like an alternative universe. Even like it wasn't even canon in Legends. Oh yeah, and then Indiana Jones goes searching for Bigfoot, which is actually Chewie. Is that true? Is that really what happens? I don't remember. It's been years since I read the comic. Kind of reminds me of that. I think you're right, actually. Yeah, but it reminds me of that fan film that somebody recently made where. Like George Lucas's dad discovers all these hieroglyphs about Star Wars, and he's basically kind of Indiana Jones, and he like gets sucked out, he goes into hyperspace in a Star Destroyer, and leaving behind his pregnant wife, who's pregnant with George. I can't even remember what the fan film's called, but it was an interesting premise. You should, I'm sure if you search for it on YouTube, you can find it. Like George, I know Jamie Costa was in it. All right, but I don't have much time tonight. But if there's anything else you guys want to talk about E.T., let's do it. If not, tomorrow's movie that I'll be watching as I work is Super 8. I wanted to kind of look at the two. I wanted to watch E.T. and then watch Super 8 because Super 8 is basically a love letter to E.T. I wanted to see their similarities. I wanted to see their differences. I wanted to see especially the directorial differences, comparing Spielberg and Abrams. And Abrams is like a Spielberg disciple, and so he's heavily influenced by him. So I wanted to see how that translated. Let's see here. So Mythic Break says, Indiana Jones's is Han's dream while in carbonite. It's funny. All right, there was a scrap Star Wars books where computers take over in the 25th century, and only 4 people from Earth can escape on a shuttle, one being an ancestor of Han Solo. And then they travel to the Star Wars galaxy. Oh my goodness. There are a lot of things from Legends that I liked. A lot of things from Legends I'm glad they did away with. Let's not jump the shark in Star Wars quite yet. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining me for this quick little chat. I hope if you did watch E.T., I hope you enjoyed it. If you've never seen it, definitely check it out. It's incredible. It is filmmaking 101 at its finest. The film still holds up because it's not a film that's based on visual effects. It's based on story. And the films that are based on story virtually always hold up. And Spielberg's films typically are highly based on story. Even though there's a lot of spectacle. So I'm anxious to see how even if Super 8 holds up, because there was a lot more spectacle in it, and it's not even that old. So I'm anxious to watch that tomorrow, but thanks so much for joining tonight, guys. Have a Dalek. I'm just ending, but thanks for joining. first off, Dalek, I want to know if you've seen E.T., and then we'll end this, because if you haven't, you have something to repent of very quickly. Well, I like doing the live streams every night. Hopefully, I can keep doing them. It's, when I'm sitting there working, I just got a movie on in the background, so I can kind of. It's a good way to help me stay sane. But I'm happy to be working from home. That cool talk and Carly want to FaceTime apparently. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much, Dalek Scientist. If you have not seen ET, see it. It's amazing. Yeah, guys. Remember.